Today's thought is our life is what our thoughts make it. Good morning, students. Welcome back. I hope all of you are fit and fine at home, studying well, and completing your work on time. This video is for the students of class 8, subject English. And in today's video, we are going to cover one chapter of our supplementary reader book, that is, It So Happened. This is our chapter number 7, and the name of the chapter is The Open Window. This is my lecture number 2 of the same chapter. This chapter is taken from It So Happened book. Topics to be covered in today's video are key points, explanation of the story part 2 and 3 line by line along with word meanings. After then we shall discuss homework solution of the homework which was assigned to you in lecture number 1 of chapter 7, that is The Open Window. Before start reading the chapter in detail, let us see the main key points. Mrs. Stapleton entered the room and apologized for coming late. She hoped that the open window did not bother Mr. Nuttall. Mrs. Stapleton went on talking about the shooting and the shortage of birds. The doctor had advised Nuttall to take complete rest. He should avoid mental excitement. Both Vera and Frampton looked at the window with fear in their eyes. Frampton Nuttall took his stick and hat. He walked through the hall door along the pathway and reached the front gate. Frampton Nuttall rushed out of the house after seeing 3 figures approaching towards the house silently. It appeared as if he had seen a ghost. He had to spend the night in a newly dug grave. The dogs were growling all around him. So these were main key points. A question arises. The horror on the girl's face made Frampton swing around his seat. What did he see? To know about this, let us read the story of part 2 in detail along with word meanings. Now let us read the story of part 2. She broke off with a little shudder. Shudder means shake, shiver or tremble. It was a relief to Frampton when the aunt bustled into the room. Bustled means entered the room noisily, with a whirl of apologies. Whirl of apologies means many apologies in quick succession for being late in making her appearance. I hope Vera has been amusing you, she said. She has been very interesting, said Frampton. Means, finally, the aunt made her appearance. She was trembling, means shaking. She hurriedly entered the room while apologizing. On the other hand, Mr. Frampton was relieved to see her. Mrs. Stapleton asked Mr. Frampton or Nuttall if her niece Vera could manage to keep him entertained, to which he replied that she had been very interesting. I hope you don't mind the open window, said Mrs. Stapleton briskly. Briskly means in an active or energetic way. My husband and brothers will be home directly from shooting, and they always come in this way. They have been out for snipe in the marshes today. Snipe means water bird that lives in marshes. Marshes means bog. So they will make a fine mess over my poor carpets. So like you, men folk, isn't it? Means, in order to make sure his guest was comfortable, Mrs. Stapleton asked Mr. Nuttall if he was fine with the open window on a hot afternoon. She further explained that her husband and her brothers have been out for shooting and that they could come back any minute. They always choose this entrance. She told him that they had gone looking for snipe in the swamp that day, so their feet would probably be dirty and she did not want them to make a mess over her carpets. She further exclaimed that all this was so typically amongst menfolk. She rattled on means went on, cheerfully about the shooting and the scarcity of birds. Scarcity of bird means no birds or very few or acute shortage and the prospects for duck in the winter. Means she excitedly went on speaking about the shooting, the shortage of birds there have been, and the chances of ducks in the winter season. To Frampton, it was all pure horrible. He made a desperate but only partially successful effort to turn the talk on to a less ghastly topic. He was conscious that his hostess was giving him only a fragment of her attention, and her eyes were constantly staying. Staying means moving. She was not looking at him, past him, to the open window and the lawn beyond. It was certainly an unfortunate coincidence that he should have paid his visit on this tragic anniversary. Means it was not at all easy for Mr. Nuttall to hear about all of this. He tried desperately to change the topic into something less horrible and terrifying, but was only partially successful in doing so. Moreover, he was well aware that he was only receiving a proportion of her hostess' attention as she was constantly looking at the window behind him and the lawn further beyond. It was definitely an unfortunate coincidence for him to have visited them on this horrifying, tragic anniversary. The doctors agree in ordering me complete rest and absence of mental excitement and avoidance of anything in the nature of violent physical exercise, announced Frampton. Means Frampton told them about the doctor's recommendation that suggested him to take complete rest, no mental excitement, and absence of anything that involved violent physical exercise. Who labored? Labored means done with great effort. Under the tolerably widespread delusion. Delusion means false impression or belief that total strangers and chance acquaintances are hungry for the least detail of one's ailments and infirmities. Ailments and infirmities means relating to health, complaints of sickness or weakness, their cause and cure. On the matter of diet, they are not so much in agreement, he concluded. Means Mr. Nuttall announced all of this under the false impression that complete strangers and acquaintances would be interested in knowing about the minute's details of his illness, its cause and cure. Thus he continued speaking and mentioned that the doctors are not yet in harmony on decisions related to his diet and nutrition. No, said Mrs. Appleton in a voice which only replaced a yawn at the last moment. Means, as disinterested as she could be, Mrs. Sepleton only replied with a no to his story about the doctors being in disagreement on the diet, which was later replaced by a yawn. Then she suddenly brightened into alert attention, but not to what Frampton was saying. Here they are at last, she cried, just in time for tea. And don't they look as if they were muddy up to the eyes? Means, suddenly Mrs. Sepleton became alert and cheerful, but not because of what Mr. Nuttall said. She spoke out of excitement and as if something that she had been long waiting for had come true. She said, "There, they are just in time for tea." She was happy on seeing that they were not covered in mud from head to toe. Frampton shivered slightly and turned towards the niece with a look intended to convey sympathetic comprehension. Sympathetic comprehension means understanding and showing sympathy. The child was staring out through the open window with a dazed horror in her eyes. Dazed means unable to think or react properly, or you can say bewilderment or confused or puzzled. In a chill shock of nameless fear, Frampton swung round in his seat and looked in the same direction. Means, as a result of Mrs. Spelton's remark, Frampton Nuttall shook a little and instantly looked towards the niece to offer a look of understanding and sympathy. Vera, on the other hand, was constantly looking out of the window in bewilderment. Bewilderment means puzzled or confused. In shock of the nameless fear or not knowing what was about to come his way, Frampton Nuttall turned around to look out of the window that was behind him. In the deepening twilight, three figures were walking across the lawn towards the window. They all carried guns under their arms, and one of them was additionally burdened with a white coat hung over his shoulders. A tired brown spaniel kept close at their heels. Noiselessly they neared the house, and then a hoarse young voice chanted out of the dusk, "I say, Bertie, why do you won't?" Means, as it was getting darker in the evening, they could see three images of human beings walking across the lawn and approaching the window. All of them carried guns under their arms, and one of them had a white coat over his shoulders. A tired brown spaniel could also be seen close to their feet. They came silently towards the house, except one could hear a rough approaching voice that sang, "I say, Bertie, why do you won't?" in the sundown. So this was the summary of part 2, or you can say this was the story of part 2. A question arises. Why did Frampton rush out wildly? To know about this, let us read the story of part 3 in detail along with word meanings. So let's start reading the story of part 3. Frampton grabbed wildly at his stick and hat, the hall door, the gravel drive. Gravel drive means a gravel road is a type on unpaved road surfaced with stones along with mud, and the front gate were dimly noted stages in his headlong retreat. Headlong means in a rush with riskless haste. A cyclist coming along the road had to run into the hedge. Hedge means a fence or boundary formed by closely growing bushes or shrubs, to avoid imminent Imminent means about to happen. Collision. Collision means accident. Means after having seen outside the window, Frampton laid his hands on his stick and the hat in a rushed manner. The hall door, the gravel drive, and the front gate could only be roughly noted as the different stages in his riskless retreat. Moreover, a cyclist coming his way had to run into the fence in order to avoid an approaching collision. "Here we are, my dear," said the bearer of the white mackintosh. Mackintosh means a full-length waterproof coat, coming in through the window. "Who was that who bolted out as we came up?" Bolted out means leave suddenly and as if in a hurry. "A most extraordinary man, a Mr. Nuttall," said Mrs. Sappleton. Means as Mrs. Sappleton's husband approached the window with his white coat, he said to her, "Here we are, my dear." He further enquired about the man who left as soon as they arrived. Mrs. Sappleton told him that he was some Mr. Nuttall and called him a most extraordinary man. He could only talk about his illnesses and dashed off without a word of goodbye or apology when you arrived. Dashed off means to leave a place suddenly or quickly. One would think he had seen a ghost. Means she further told her husband that the strange man could only talk about his sickness, and even more strangely, he left without saying goodbye or offering an apology as soon as they arrived. It seemed to her as if he had seen a ghost. "I accept it was the spaniel," said the niece calmly. "He told me he had a horror of dogs. He was once haunted into a cemetery somewhere on the banks of the Ganges by a pack of dogs and had to spend the night in a newly dug grave with the creatures snarling." Snarling means make an aggressive growl with bared or bad teeth. And grinning. Grinning means smiling boldly so as to reveal teeth. And forming just above him, enough to make anyone lose their nerve. Lose their nerve means to suddenly panic and become too afraid. Means self-possessed as she was, the niece interrupted and told everyone that it must have been the dog that would have scared him away. She further told them that Mr. Nuttall made a confession about his fear of dogs and how once, when he was being chased by a pack of dogs, he landed himself into a cemetery somewhere in the banks of Ganges. He ended up spending the night in a freshly dug grave with the dogs growling and grinning above in search of him. She further remarked that it was scary enough to make someone panic. Romance at short notice were her specialty. Romance at short notice means finding oceans for fun and enjoyment. Means there is a line at the end of the lesson that says romance at short notice was her specialty. This means that Vera was fond of finding oceans that would give her a chance to induce fun and enjoyments, even if it meant making dramatic stories on the spot. So, this was a story of part 3. I hope all of you have understood the story. Students, you have to complete your homework on the basis of the chapter explained by me. And your homework is read chapter 7, that is the open window, and write word meanings mentioned in the video. Based on the understanding of the chapter, write the answers of the questions mentioned in the book It So Happened As. Page number 60, Comprehension Check, question number 1 and 2. Page number 61, Comprehension Check, question number 1 and 2. Students, you have to write meanings of the following words in your English Sphere notebook. So, number 1 word is marshes. Again I am repeating, marshes. Number 2 is delusion. Again I am repeating, delusion. Number 3 is rattled on. Rattled on. Number 4 is bustled. Bustled. Number 5 is dazed. Dazed. Now let us see the questions of comprehension check, which is on page number 60. Question number 1 is, what did Mrs. Sapleton say about the open window? Question number 2 is, the horror on the girl's face made Frampton swing around his seat. What did he see? Now let us see questions of comprehension check, which is on page number 61. Question number 1 is, why did Frampton rush out wildly? Question number 2 is, what was the girl's explanation for his lightning exit? Students, now in this video, we shall discuss homework solution of the homework which was assigned you in lecture number 1 of chapter 7, that is the open window. Students, I have already explained you story of part 1 in detail along with word meanings in our previous video. As I assigned you homework which was to be done by you on the basis of your understanding. And your homework was read chapter 7, that is the open window, and write word meanings mentioned in the video. Based on the understanding of the chapter, write the answers of the questions mentioned in the book It So Happened As. Page number 57, comprehension check, question number 1 to 3. Now let us discuss meanings of the words which were assigned you in the homework. Number first word is endeavored or endeavored, means tried. Number 2 is dusk, means sunset. Number 3 is bog, means wet or spongy ground. Number 4 is pursued, means in the context of this chapter it means continued. Number 5 is treacherous, means dangerous, though it seems safe. Now let us discuss the answers of the questions of comprehension check, which is on page number 57. Question number 1 is, why had Frampton Nuttall come to the rural retreat? The answer of the question is, Frampton Nuttall came to the rural retreat as he wanted a cure for the bad nerves he was suffering from. Question number 2 is, why had his sister given him letters of introduction to people living there? The answer of the question is, His sister knew that Frampton would meet very few people in the countryside. He would feel lonely and bored. His condition could grow worse. So she gave him letters of introduction to all people she knew there. One was addressed to Mrs. Sepleton. Question number third is, what had happened in the Sepleton family as narrated by the niece? The answer of the question is, the niece played a practical joke or prank on Nuttall when she came to know that he was a total stranger. She said that her aunt's husband, two brothers, and a dog had gone for hunting through the window 3 years ago. They never returned back, but the aunt was still hoping to see them back through the open window. That's all for today. So this is the end of the lecture. Students, if you like our videos, please hit on the like button and don't forget to subscribe our channel. Thank you and have a nice day.